Hello, in this video, we're going to talk about the constraints. We're going to use constraints in following videos and future designs, and they're extremely important, but do not try to memorize it. This video is just for just to be familiar with them, just to understand what they do. And basically, they are used to keep the design in control, to make sure that everything is defined and everything is constrained in the most efficient way, so that if you make modifications to your design, that you don't lose the control of your design. So in this video, we're going to talk about the different constraint types available in Inventor, Autodesk Inventor Professional 2024. So we're going to go ahead and start the 2D sketch and select XY plane and move this here so we have some extra space, and we're going to draw some lines and look at the constraints. So as you notice that I clicked on the line on the top, but I don't have to do that. I can just escape that and get out of that command and right click and click on create line. And notice that on the left bottom corner, it says select start of a line. So I can just select that, and I can just move my mouse and create the line. If I click on it again, it's going to create that line, but it's not going to stop creating the lines. So I can continue to create more lines. To be able to get out of that command, I can hit escape on my keyboard, or I can right click and click OK, and it's going to get out of that command. Just a quick trick. If you select it starting from the left top corner, you will see that the rectangle you're creating, this area you're creating, is going to be this pinkish red color, and then you can select all of that and then delete it, or let's undo that. Or if you start from the bottom right corner, notice that the color will change to green, which means that, well, you're deleting the whole thing right now. But actually the difference is, if you start from the top left corner, notice that when you are hitting this first line, you're not selecting the line. You have to select the whole area. Like if I do this, for example, it's not going to select that line because I didn't cover the beginning and end of the line. I have to cover the whole thing to select that line to be able to delete or modify it. But if I start from the bottom right corner and the color is green, all I have to do is just touch that line. That way I can just delete that line. It is going to be pretty useful when we design more complicated geometries. Just wanted to mention that. But we don't need to design all these lines here, so we can delete them. So now we have this line here that we created. And notice that this line is moving up and down, left and right. I can hold the point here and just drag it around. There is no definitive location, or there are no constraints for this line in the space. And basically, Inventor is saying that you need 4 dimensions to fully define this line. And you can, of course, dimension it, but also you can constrain it to a certain reference geometry. You can geometrically constrain it to define this line in space. And for that, we use these constraints. Say that you have this one line here, and as I hover on it, you can see that I'm highlighting it. I can click on it. Now it is selected. So now I can select, for example, horizontal constraint. And as you keep your as you keep your cursor on this horizontal constraint option, you will see a quick preview of that constraint and what it does. As you can see that, something similar to our line, it's highlighted with red in this preview. And if you select a horizontal constraint and click on this line, it will horizontally constrain it, and it's going to be a horizontal line. So let's do that. Click on this horizontal line, and then this dotted line shows you that the basically what to expect once you click on this line. Let's click on it, and now it is horizontally constrained. To be able to get out of this command, again, I can hit escape on my keyboard, or I can right click and select OK. So let's create another line. Click OK, escape that command, and let's constrain this vertically this time. Vertical constraint, again, you see a similar preview of this. Select that, select this, and now it is vertically constrained. These are horizontal and vertical constraints that are very commonly used when you create 2D sketches. And just once we start doing these, designing these complex geometries, you'll see that we will use them frequently. But right now, just to be familiar with it, we're just going to go over them real quick. So let's look at the other constraints now. So I can just draw a line like this, and then I can draw another line like this, and say that I want these lines to be perpendicular to each other. And I can click on the perpendicular constraint button here, and like I did with horizontal constraint and vertical constraint, but also just another option, you can hold down the control key on your keyboard, select two lines, and then click on perpendicular. Notice that Inventor just made them perpendicular to each other, the way it decided to do. It didn't follow any rules because we didn't specify any rules. We don't have any dimensions. We don't have any other constraints. It did what it can to satisfy the request. So let's just complete that. See that this is completely perpendicular. I can move them around, but they will always be perpendicular to each other. So now let's create another line, and then here the second line. And then let's look at the parallel constraint now. Again, parallel constraint, you can see the preview of that as well. Let's click on that, select the first line, and then you can again see the prompt here, select the second line. You can select the second line. Again, you can move them individually, but the parallel constraint between them will always be maintained. And now let's create again two lines here and here. This time, let's explore coincident constraint. So for the coincident constraint, you need to have a point. This one, for example, the prompt saying select a curve or a point. I can select the line or I can select the point. Let's start with the point this time. I start with the point, and now it says select the second point or curve. So I will select this one. Now this point that I selected is coincidentally constrained to this line right here. And I can move it around. I can do all kinds of things. I can change the lengths because those are not defined. I didn't give any dimensions, but they will always be constrained from this point to that line. And I could have done it point to point like this. So I could have selected this point. I can select constraint, coincident constraint, select this point, and then select that point. Now they are, you can't see it, but I can kind of make this bigger. But they are constrained from that point. Also, we have the collinear constraint, which means that I have this line here and I have the second line here, and I want these to be collinearly constrained. So I select that option, select this line, select that line. Now they are collinear. So also we have the concentric constraint. So if I design a center point, if I put a center point circle here, let's put a smaller circle right next to it. And I want these to be concentrically constrained. So again, I can use the preview. I can look at the preview of that constraint option as well. So I can just select the constraint, select the first circle, select the second circle. Now they will be constrained from their center points. Again, diameters are not defined. They can just move around, this whole thing move around, but they will always move together because now they're constrained from the middle. And so we covered this, and we covered the parallel, perpendicular, horizontal, and vertical. Let's look at the tangent. So I can create a line, and then I can create a circle, center circle, and now I want this line to be tangent constrained to this circle. So I click on the tangent constraint, select the circle. I could have started with the line as well. Select the circle, select the line. Now this line is tangent to the circle. You have the parallel constraint. Let's use two lines that we created before. For example, let's these two. Let's make this significantly smaller. Obviously, this line is small and this line is longer, right? So let's make them equal. So for example, I click on this line, I click on this line. Now their lengths are identical. Now I can change the length if I want to, but I can move it around right now. But no, that's not doing it because it's not fully constrained. But you know, their lengths are always going to be the same. Notice that as I click on one line, it shows me it shows me the active constraint. So for example, this one, we you know, use the parallel constraint. There are also the equal constraint is also applied to these two. So when I click on the line, it shows me the constraints that are active on these lines. So the I can always move these around. I can select the constraints. I can move them around. Sometimes you have so many constraints applied to a certain line, and you might want to move them around. You can click on them and delete them. So now equal constraint is deleted. I'm just going to undo that so it comes back. And then you can always, you know, say show all constraints, and now all the constraints are visible on each line. And you can say hide all the constraints, and they're hidden. And so these are also other you know, available features that you can use. And the other two constraints that we didn't look at, they're not very commonly used, but sometimes as you use Inventor, you start using them. One of them is the smooth constraint. So if I have a line here, and let's say I have a spline, something like this, and then we're going to talk about the spline constraint too. So I can use a smooth constraint with this line, with this spline, and now it's just, you know, it is constrained on this end here. See, it is constrained to that. And again, you can just keep your cursor on it. It kind of gives you the preview of that constraint. And you have this symmetric constraint. Again, you see that, you know, those blue lines that are numbered as like 1 and 2, and you use them and you create the symmetric, you know, symmetric constraint between them. So for example, let's do something like that here, and like that, and then say click on symmetric and click on the first one, number 2 and number 3. Now they are symmetric based on that line that's in the middle. And of course, the one constraint that we did not talk about is the lock constraint. Lock constraint is basically it fixes the point. You know, you don't have to give it a dimension. You don't have to constrain it with other constraint options. You could just say, I don't want this. You know, let's say I'm deleting this. See, right now, this is another good example. I selected something and I right-clicked and I'm trying to create the line, but because that line is selected, it's not giving me those options because there's an active command. What I can do is I can press escape on my keyboard to get out of that command, and now I can right click and I can create a line. Let's say it's right now it's freely moving in space. I want to lock this in the position that it's in. I can just click on fix and it is locked into that position. Now I can't move it around. So it says the sketch constraint. That's why it's trying to put another one. I'll put escape on my keyboard to get out of that command. Now I'm trying to move it around. It doesn't move. So now this has a designated spot in the space. It is fully defined, not because I gave it specific constraints or I gave it like dimensions. It's because I locked it in place. Of course, under the constraint tab, another option you will see is dimensions. We will talk about the dimensions in the future videos, but these are the constraints that are used in Autodesk Inventor and many other softwares, frankly, and you will use them commonly and frequently in the future designs or the projects that you work on. Thank you.